Hello, we appear to be live. I'm live from the office. Germán seems to be back at home. Hope everyone is. In fact, sorry, I had to pause there because I just heard myself speaking because I was live on my other monitor, strangely. Anyway, start again. It's my Wednesday evening off. I'm still at the office though. I got the night off work, but I'm still at work. And tonight we are going to install a Tezos node 3 different ways, maybe 4 actually, we will see. If you are new to this, you probably don't understand a word of what we're talking about, particularly in our tweets. So Tezos is an environmentally friendly blockchain. The mining on that blockchain is called baking. That's why we keep calling things bakers and baking. And our software is called Octez. That's what we're going to be looking at tonight. Maybe some things will go right, maybe some things will go wrong. It's all been rehearsed, but let's see. Now, we probably won't talk about cryptocurrencies very much tonight. I think we'll be working on test nets. So anything we do with cryptocurrencies will be fake ones. But just a disclaimer, don't take any advice from us on investing. We're just a couple of good old boys, meaning no harm. And let's take it from there. So before we do go in, my lovely co-installer, Germán, how are you doing this week, sir?
Oh, it's fine. Been like you said, a bit of a rush to get back home because I had to go to the office today, and I forgot because I never leave the office until a couple of until at least after 6 or 7. So I forgot about the rush hour, and I was a bit rushing to get back. But it's been nice. It's been fun. We are busy. It's been like. I think like I had been quite busy beginning of the year between the different projects we have for Q1, the upcoming work on the protocol, our usual work on TechRel, caring for our bakers and caring for our community. We have a couple of incidents, that to solve. You might have seen, for instance, that we had to do a couple of release revisions to Octez and this kind of stuff. So basically, it's like business as usual, I guess. That has been a lot of business. And
well, sixth of the year is almost gone as well. Isn't that strange? It has just vanished. So time is vanishing. So I suppose highlights, lowlights is what we do every time. Oh, by the way, have you got anything open this week? Because normally we have a bottle of wine, but I'm again dry. So please tell me about what you're drinking.
I'm not. I mean, and it's not by I can't actually say that that I'm not having anything with me in support of your Lent, let's say, but it's accidental. I didn't make it to open a bottle of wine in time, so it will happen after to celebrate the success of our install party. But no drinks this time. It's kind of like
no drinks. Yeah,
I take infra work seriously.
Yeah, well, having done January off drink, I'm now starting on Lent. I've been on Lent for a week, and I'm doing 1 meal a day, except the days I go to the gym, and I have porridge 2 hours before I go to the gym. Rock on, rock and roll. That's basically it. And then on Saturday, I'm allowed to have carbs, so 1 meal a day. And I've already dropped 2 kilos because I've burnt out all the rubbish. Would like to drop a bit more, but yeah, I'm also not drinking as well until Easter. So let's see how that goes. Highlights, lowlights that we do every time. Germán, what are your highlights?
Yeah, so I guess since we last talked, well, kind of highlights. I think it's well, like I say, I kind of like have some time to get back into tennis after my holidays. Weather is getting a little bit better slightly here in the Old Blighty, so no more like at least a couple of chances to play with the dry courts. But also I was in Madrid over the weekend. It's kind of like a bit of a shameless plug. My sister-in-law, she paints, and she had like an exhibit in a gallery. So we flew in for the weekend just to be there, spend some time. Also saw some friends, catch up, with the favorite tapas places, and like kind of like we. So it was a nice, weekend, and also the weather was good, and also kind of like that. And then I guess on the Tezos side, I mentioned it before, like saying that kind of like we are cooking some nice ideas, and kind of like had some time to think a bit into a little bit of a couple of projects I want to work on, minor tooling and stuff like that. So I mean Claude will work, and I will approve the Murphy tests. But kind of like much year later, I was playing with a couple of tools that to make my life easier, let's say, around Octez, and looking into logs and this kind of stuff. So hopefully I will have something to share by the end of the quarter.
All right.
Low lights, I guess. Well, I said before, it's been a bit busier than usual, and it's been like feels like it's been a hectic beginning of the year, but I think that kind of like it. Hopefully, it will be worth it, and we will reap the rewards later, I guess.
You will. I'm sure you will. Well, I mean, I was in Spain as well recently.
Oh, really?
Weekend before last year, I went to Malaga.
Oh, nice.
On the Friday. Very nice, bit of sun, but it was quite windy there. So there were a couple of things that were shut, but got on a bus and did the road of Kings. I don't know if you know that, but it's quite a famous picturesque place where you walk, but there's quite a lot of walking around to do. So did that, had some fish, big fishes, in fact. So enjoyed that very much. And I said last time I was moaning on about taxes. Do you remember?
Yes.
Well, the good news is someone has taken, I don't know who they've taken to court, but a court has decided that landlord permit schemes might not be all they're geared up to be. So that's on hold, which means I'm hanging on, and the council apparently have my money safe. I should add that my council a couple of years ago decided to make a very silly investment with their money and lost it all. So hopefully my money is in a custody account. It's not very much, but yeah, it's one of those things. What else did I do? I can't think of any low lights this month, really. Just a few little weird. We had a friend, former colleague, die on this week, completely unexpectedly, and got a message from his family. So that was in Poland, and his funeral's today actually. So I would raise a glass to him if I was drinking, but just a few little things like that have come in as well, and sort of knocked me for six. Anyway, we get up and we carry on. So what we're going to do first, I suppose, what I should really do is figure out how to share my screen without breaking anything. Let's try. Oh my goodness, Google. So we're going to do this 3 ways. About a year ago, I did a video with Kevin. I think Kevin's here tonight. online watching.
I saw he lurking around.
Yeah, so I'm going to redo that again, but instead I'm going to use the Nomadic Labs packages. So they're the official ones you can get. I'm going to do that first, and then I'm going to install the software as if I was a developer and give a hint how you might want to run a development version. On the first occasion, I'm going to put the Baker on Tallinnnet, which is one of our test nets. So if you are following along at home and you want to follow this, you can do that quite safely. There's nothing financial you can lose. And then finally, before perhaps handing over to Herman to see how he does things, I'm going to set up a local node on this machine, which is my Mac. And I'm going to try and connect a wallet to it, successfully or not successfully. So let's start, without further ado, let's start with that. So I have got some Google Cloud instances here. I've set them up. They're not particularly difficult to do, but I'll just run through that. If people are not familiar, you can set up a VM quite easily. I mean, I would do it local to you. So for me, that is Zurich. And you need to have 16 gig of RAM for running a node and a Baker. I think that's probably about the right, Herman. No more than that these days.
Yes, that should be it. Sorry, I had to zoom a bit to see this.
Yeah,
but yeah. So basically, that's a little bit like the minimal recommended hardware that we have. So 16 gigabytes of memory, at least three threads. So basically, they're like 4 virtual CPUs. Should be enough. Allegedly, a rule of thumb would be like 2 for the node, 1 for the Baker, 1 for the DAL if you're running the infra together.
Yeah. Well, I've got 4. I've got 2. I've got 4. Yeah, so I've got 4 threads, and I've got 16 gig. And I'm also going to put. I'm just going to give myself a bit of breathing room, and give myself 500 gig of disk. Okay. That obviously puts the price up. But then
you're doing everything on the same disk.
I am today. Yes. Obviously, that's not necessarily recommended for a production environment. You might want to have a separate disk for your chain, but this is to get going. So if you just change those 2 things at Google, change the region, the RAM, make sure you've got the right number of threads, and make sure you've got enough disk, you can create a container that will do for this. And in the spirit of doing things live, here's one I made earlier. So I'm going to log into a machine that I set up earlier. All I have done to this machine is upgrade the operating system, and you can do that by running these commands. I mean, that's really a basic thing to do, and once you get into system administration, you learn it. But if you're not into system administration, probably the hardest bit of what we do is operating the shell on a Linux computer, and there's really nothing to it. You type commands like in the old days of computing. You can go up arrows, you can edit, you can move around the line, you can do various things. You see here I've got a disk of about just under 500 gig. The operating system has used some of it, and I've got 16 gig total, and I've used a bit of it already. Okay, so that is the machine. What we're going to do first? Well, first of all, I need to make sure a few things are installed. So this login comes free with the Google setup. And to make life easier, Google have given me something called sudo access, which is the admin access of the machine. So I'm going to do some things with that. I'm going to do some things in other accounts. First of all, I need to make sure curl and GPG are installed. They probably are, but I've found that on some systems, I had a Debian 13 system the other day that didn't have them for some reason. But this one has. So apt is the package managing tool, and I've just said I want to install curl and GPG. It's gone off to the internet. And what we're going to do first is we're going to add the Nomadic Labs packages site to the catalog of packages on this server. So we do that by accepting a public key so that we can verify the packages are correct. Obviously, that requires a certain amount of trust where we get the key. And then once we've done that, we add the packages repository to the list of package repositories, obviously. So this incantation I'm going to type here does two things. The first thing is it goes off and gets a key from our website. So curl downloads that. And then we send that to GPG, which is a program for processing public and private keys. So having done that, that key is accepted. Now I need to edit a file to add in the package repository. Now I've obviously got a lot of this pre-prepared. We can publish this. I think we can probably publish this on the YouTube video afterwards for people interested.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, I guess we can share, if someone's following live, basically the whole process that we're following. It's in the documentation here. So
it is. I put Trixie there. That's not correct. We should be using Bookworm because we're on Debian 12. But all this is in the docs in that link that Herman's put on the screen. So I add that to the catalog. I then update the catalog, which is done, and now I can install the Baker, and I can do that in one line because installing this package, Octez Baker, installs all the things that we need. And there we are. It's going to use about 2 gig of disk. And off it goes and downloads it. So that's the only complexity in installing the software. And if you're a Linux system administrator on Debian or Ubuntu, that should be familiar. If you're not, then that's the only steep bit of the learning curve, as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
Yeah, right. And also to iterate this, basically, if you go to the docs, this have just 4 or 5 commands. So it's mostly, it's not, you don't need to be an expert in system administration to be able to run, copy and paste a few commands from the command line. Of course, it's kind of like, it's always better if you understand what's happening, what it's doing, but it's kind of something that sometimes people have this, rejection of the command line, or maybe like they feel threatened by, especially by people that use matrix-like colors and stuff.
Like me, yeah. Well, I mean, this is how computing used to be, of course. Right, so these packages install a user on the system called Tezos, and that is the user that all the programs run as, pretty much. So we're going to switch to that user. Now, there's about 500 different ways to switch to the user. I'm going to use sudo to become root, and then I can use su to change to that user. Okay, so there you are. I can see I'm now Tezos. So we're going to configure the node. That's the first thing we're going to do. Now, to configure the node, the most basic thing is we need to tell it which network we're on. We're going to tell it which mode to use. So there are 3 history modes. There's archive, which has absolutely everything, every piece of information on the network. There is full, that has absolutely every piece of information except some intermediate balances which would need to be calculated if you needed them. And then rolling, which stores a certain number of recent data, and that's enough for you to interact with the chain. We're going to use rolling today, and I'm going to do 2 other things. I'm going to tell it to join Tallinnnet, which is the current test network that we're looking at. And I'm going to tell it to turn on RPC for the local machine. Now, RPC stands for Remote Procedure Call, and it is a way of querying the node, sending it operations, and also getting information from it. So they're the 3 things I'm going to do, and I'm going to do that with one magic command. So I don't know if you can see that, but
maybe you can, Max, increase the size of the terminal a bit.
Yeah, I can do that. Is that better? Ooh, that's not good, is it? Ooh. There we are. That's probably the best we can do today. It's done it again. Don't try this at home, everyone.
You have a very wide screen.
I do. So what we're doing here, we're running Octez node in configuration mode. We're initting the config. We're telling it to use this URL for the information on the network, which is wrapped. Let's move that over. So if you were on mainnet, you just have to put mainnet there, not the URL. And then we're telling it to use rolling history mode and to start the RPC server on port 8732 on the local machine. So 127001 is the secret code for the local machine. Right, so I run that. And it didn't work, did it? Let's run it again with the lines not split. There we are. Oh,
No, you too.
You didn't see that. Let's try again.
It's good. I guess that's the evidence we are doing this live.
Yeah. I accidentally split the lines, so now that's one line. Anyway, that has created the configuration file, and it's in a lovely format called JSON, JavaScript notation, and there are the various bits and pieces that it's pulled down from that URL. And that would, if you start the node now, what will happen is it will go off to the network and it will try and synchronize from the very first block, and it will pull down all the information. And that will take a little bit of time. On mainnet, that will take quite a long time, maybe over a week actually. So what we have is something called a snapshot, which is a backup, and we're going to grab one of those now. I don't know. Do we have a URL to the banner to the snapshot server? Probably not. But
I can create
Tezos Foundation runs a snapshot service at snapshots.tzinit.org. And when I designed it, I just designed it so that you had the network name and then the history mode, so it was easy to remember. So I'm just going to grab that snapshot. It's quite a small file for this network. And now I'm going to import it. Oh no, don't take the EU out. Ooh. You don't need the EU in there anymore.
So okay, I have
definitely doing it live. Yeah, so now I'm just going to import the file. There's a file called rolling, and I'm just going to import it in. Snapshot, import rolling. So that consumes that file and brings it in to the format that we can use to run a node. Now, that, my friends, is it. We exit as the Tezos user because the Tezos user doesn't have the same permissions that my user has. And now we're going to start the node. So all I have to do is use system control. So system control is the standard way of stopping and starting services on Linux these days. Never used to be. Gone are the good days. So I'm going to enable the service first, and now I'm going to start the service, and we should have a log file somewhere. Let's have a look, and we do. You can see that the node has started. It is generating an identity file, which it will use on the peer-to-peer network, and it should start working. Fingers crossed. So we're, 24 minutes in. We had a bit of a chat at the beginning, and we've already set the node up. And as I say, I think the complexity here, if there is any, is understanding the system administration stuff, the Linux stuff. It is taking a little while to generate the identity, but sometimes it does. So whilst that is going, let's just discuss what we're going to do next. We're going to configure a DAO node. So the DAO node handles the data availability layer. And this is going to be used to make our smart rollups like Etherlink faster. And at the moment, you need to run a DAO node if you run a Baker. And you need to use that to attest. Otherwise, you don't get as many rewards. Right, back there we go. You see our node has started. It's picked up from the end of where the snapshot left off. It's about 3 hours behind, and that should sync relatively quickly. Okay. Now, whilst that is going on, I'm now going to set up the DAO node. Now I'm going to do that as the Tezos user again. This one is incredibly easy to configure for our purposes. I'm just going to run it like that. That's it. You can add some more information to this. If you're a bit more advanced and you're going to bake, you should really tell the DAO node the baker address, but you can get away with this on a first go. And that's it. So that's the DAO node configured. I'm going to enable it. Same way, it's a service again. And start it. Okay,
Yeah,
so we've any luck. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say that if, like, again, the steps for running the DAO, in particular, the data availability layer has different roles, let's say, but for the baker, there's the interesting one is one called the attester, and basically there on the Octez documentation you will have like basically a little bit like the steps that we are going over, but also a little bit also some troubleshooting information in case usual pitfalls. But so basically it's a very thorough tutorial.
The thing to think about is you've got a node, and the baker is going to connect to the node, and it's going to connect to the DAO node that connects to the node. There's sort of there's a triangle going on there. That's waiting for the layer 1 node to be synced. So let's just have a look. That's only 8 minutes behind now, so it's picked up really quickly, and I'm expecting it to say synced. Any second, you'd hope, wouldn't you? There we are. So that is synced and bootstrapped. And now the DAO node should also be happy. So yes, it's doing stuff. So both those nodes are online. That took an extra 3 minutes to set up the DAO node. Right. So what next? So so let's set the baker up. So to bake, you need to have a stake. On a proof of stake network, you need to have a stake, and that stake lives in a wallet. So we need to have a key to sign with and maintain a wallet, but also with DAO and with BLS keys that we're going to use, we're going to jump straight in and use BLS. We're not really going to explain that too hard. We need to have a companion key, so we need 2 keys. So I'm going to generate, under the Tezos account where they need to live, I'm going to generate a baking key, and I'm going to use the BLS method, and I'm going to generate a companion key.
Okay.
So we now have 2 keys, and the baking key is going to need some funds on it. It's going to need at least 6,000. I'm going to give it 7,000. Now, on mainnet, you'd need to go and get your money out of your wallet and go and buy some at an exchange, or persuade someone else to give them to you, or whatever. Do what you need to do. We're on a test network here, so we're going to go and use the faucet. And the faucets live on the testnet site. We're using Tallinnnet. And all I need to do there is take my address. And I'm going to put on 6,500 and just request them. And they are already on the way. If I go and look on the Tallinnnet, so this is the TZKT Block Explorer that works on the testnet as well. I can go and have a look at this account, and you can see there I've received 6,500. I can also check here on the command line. There we are. So we're good to go. Now, if you want to bake, you got a steak. So we need to declare that this key is going to be a baker. So we need to register it as a delegate, which is another name for a baker on Tezos. So we'll do that first. So Octez client, register key, my baker as delegate. That goes off to the network. It does that. Then we want to stake 6,000 Tez. So that's going to be our bond. If we do naughty things on the network like double bake, which we won't do because we've set everything up correctly, but if we did, we would lose our stake. I'm going very high level at this point. There's more to it than that, but I just want to get through and get the baker set up. And then because we have got a companion key, I'm going to set the companion key to map it to the baking key. So both these keys are used for signing on the network. It's just we need 2 keys for performance reasons. And so let's set that one. And it did not like that. Why didn't it like that? It's because did I type companion wrong? No, I typed baker and not my baker. There we are. Okay, so what we've done there is we've registered the baking key as a baker. We've staked 6,000 Tez, and we've set a companion key. If we go back to the Block Explorer and refresh it, you can see all of those things have appeared here. Okay. So the next step then is to finish configuring the baker. And there's a configuration file that's in etc default for this one. We just need to edit it. So without going into too much detail, you have to vote on something called liquidity baking. On the test network, you can just vote pass and not think too much about it. On mainnet, you need to go and figure out what you want to do, whether you want to vote for it, vote against it, or vote pass.
Yeah, one key thing here there is that this basically, if you don't set this vote, the baker doesn't start, right? So it's a bit of mandatory steps, and also it's kind of to flag attention to this, something that we want. The baker has a choice to manifest.
Right. So we have the option here to put the baking key in. I need to tell the baker to use both the baking key and the companion key, but they're the 2 keys in my wallet. So I'm just going to leave that empty. It's going to use both of them. And I want to use the download. So what I'm going to do here is uncomment this. And that will mean when I start the baker, it will use the download. Right. So now we should just be able to start the baker. And same, it's a service. Okay, and then we should have, yes, we've got bakers running for each protocol and also the accuser. So this is on Tallinnnet. Let's have a quick look. And you can see there the baker is running at the moment. It won't have any rights yet. We will have to wait. We might actually come back a bit later because Tallinnnet is quite a quick one, but it should get some baking rights soon and start baking.
Might be less than an hour if we are lucky.
Yeah, if we're lucky. Right, so that's it. That's all you need to do to set up a baker. So we did that in about, what, 20 minutes, if that. Now, one very important thing, I have put the keys on the hard disk. So the Tezos user here has access to those keys. And if I was to catalog this file here, secret keys, I would expose a string which people could take, and then they would have access to my wallet. So storing keys like this is okay on a test network because there's nothing at risk. But when you're working on mainnet, you need to do something a bit more robust. So I think what we're going to do, we're probably going to do a future episode where we talk a little bit about that. Historically, people at home have used the ledger device to store their key. Switching to BLS keys, we're going to have to do something a bit different. And there are solutions around that using Raspberry Pis and other computers, which hold the key and run a piece of software that just accepts certain transactions only from certain computers. But that's something to think about if you're on mainnet. Yeah, go on, Herman.
Yeah, I was going to say that we had three different proof of concepts for all these new signer hardwares that have been in development. One is the Tezos Raspberry Pi BLS signer. It's a long name, but it's basically they've been developed by the core teams at Nomadic Labs, Trilly, and Functory. And it uses basically it's a very like an open source signer that runs on a Raspberry Pi Zero V2. Has like you might have seen have the tutorials on how to assemble them around, some videos and step by step. But there's also two different similar alternatives. One called designed by the people from Test Capital that is used slightly different hardware, and it doesn't have a feature screen. But then there's also now a Rossignol. There's also a different signer has been developed by a baker, actually, by Rick, and which uses the same hardware than the Tezos IPI VLS signer, but it's implemented in different languages, and it has different features as well. So I think it's kind of like it's a good opportunity to explore if you have some time to see to it and understand a little bit better how kind of like how these replacements for the ledger are supposed to be. And again, when we say replacement for ledger, they are specifically meant to be a replacement for bakers, and in particular for signing blocks and operations. So existing bakers that already have used historically a ledger device, and now they might be using a S Plus with a, I don't know, a TZ1 or TZ3 key. They still can keep using the Tezos ledger. So basically, they can still continue to use the ledger for managing the funds, basically for staking and transferring by some of the steps that Chris did to set up the bakery with the baking key. But then they can split the responsibility, keep the ledger to managing the funds, and then use these alternative signers using the companion key and an extra key in this case that we haven't used today because we use 2 keys and not 3, which is with the consensus key, right? So as something maybe we can, like you said, go back into like doing a little bit of a full episode on key management and follow up on the updates on this.
Well, that's right. That's right. So I'm working on something where I've obviously got a load of funds to protect, and we're working on a solution to hold a key in a very secure environment and run it on a secure compute platform that can't be accessed. So there's things like that to consider with BLS. Whereas historically with the other key types, you could use a hardware security module and sign in them. BLS needs a bit more attention. So we might come back to that in a future episode, but I'm just saying here, just protect your keys if you're on mainnet, because you could lose your funds if someone compromises your machine. Right, that's enough on that. I'm going to quit that window. We'll leave this screen up, and maybe we've got 15 minutes left of that cycle. I guess we'll get some writes. We might see some writes soon. Right, so that was installing from packages. And now I want to install Octez as if I was a developer, because the entire Tezos development community are about to cringe now, but so I have another machine called Dev1. It's a completely clean machine. I have upgraded the software on it because that takes a few minutes to do that. And rather than bore you all with that, so what we're going to do is we're going to install some prerequisites. We're going to install the Camel package manager. Now, Objective Camel is a computing language, which most of Octez is written in. It's also written in a bit of Rust as well. So we need to install a Camel and we need to install Rust. I'm going to go a bit different to the standard instructions, and I'm going to install a Camel from the Camel place. Sorry, master site, rather than use the packages for it. So let's start with that. So there's a whole bunch of things, there's a whole bunch of things that you need to have installed first. And this is the minimum set of things that I need. I also found I needed bubble wrap today, so I added it on. I'm also going to install something called Tmux. If you haven't used Tmux yet and you're a sysadmin, where have you been? You've probably been using Screen. But what Tmux allows you to do is attach a terminal to it, run a command, have multiple windows, detach it, and then you could go home to a different computer, log in, and get your session back. And that's going to be quite important for the way we run the software. So I'm going to install all these things. Off it goes and gets all the dependencies. That'll take a few minutes. Now, what we will do for Objective Camel is we're going to install the Objective Camel package manager, OPAM, and then that'll be enough to get us going. But we have to wait patiently for these packages to install. Perhaps I should have got one ready. So this normally works, and it also updating between versions is normally fairly easy. It's just a matter of running the make commands that you'll see at the end. But sometimes if you're a developer working on the cutting edge version, you'll need to do a bit more. But if you're doing that, you probably know what you're doing anyway, and you don't need me to tell you. Okay. Cool. We need Postgres as well. Lovely. Let's make this bigger. Okay, that's done. So now we need to install the Camel package manager. So there's a script for that. I'm going to grab it with wget, and I'm going to run it. Now this is the standard way of installing OPAM from that they recommend from their site. So I'm not doing anything clever here. I do need to have sudo access. So again, Google has given me sudo access, and it's installed OPAM, and it's there. Right, now we need to install Rust. Very similar method, except I'm going to run the script directly. I just made the script executable, and I'm going to give it a few extra things that are recommended so that we pick the right versions.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's telling you to do something here. I mean, I do it this way. If you're doing this long term, you need to add all this script is doing is setting adding the cargo directory to your path so that you find the Rust compiler. So you need to do that. If you need to do that every time, you can put that in your bash rc or whatever file. So anyway, I've done that here. Now I'm going to get the Tezos sources. We use GitLab, so I'm going to clone them out of GitLab. Just check where I am. That's fine. So clone those. And that's grabbing the entire repository, copy of the repository with all the branches in it. And I think for simplicity today, I'm just going to build latest release, which is 24.1.
Yes.
Because I know it works. Or it did earlier. It might have changed. You never know.
Master is supposed to work with first last.
Yes. Yeah, it does. So it's getting to be quite a big repo.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get you do have an entire copy of everything on your disk, so you can work offline and do all those good things. Right, that's done. Go
on. No, I was going to say like that we went over the hardware requirements at the beginning, and these hardware requirements are for operations. Normally, I've been told by professional production folks that you don't build in prod. That's not necessarily true in this business. There's like a lot of institutions actually build Octez from sources, especially exchanges, because they want to control what they are running. But the point is that if you're building from sources, you need extra resources. In particular, like Chris says, Octez is developed using mostly 2 programming languages, and you need space to have all the development infrastructure, like say Open and Cargo, and that takes some space. And also building Octez requires a set of dependencies. So basically, you probably need to a couple of, let's say, maybe 30-40 gigabytes of a space to build Octez, and that is only. And then you need to also take into account that Git also takes some space. And if you are running and the memory, and if you're building at the same time that you are running your node or your infrastructure, you need to allow for extra memory, because of the in particularly building from sources can get some spikes and go beyond 16 gigabytes, right? So you need to be careful, in particular if you're to pay attention that this has like extra requirements on your infrastructure.
Yep. All right. Cool. So I've seeded into the source code. I'm going to check out the sources for the latest release. So let's just switch to that branch. And now I need to, the first time I do this, I need to initialize the Camel package manager. So the recommended way of doing that for this software is this. And off it goes. It does a few bits and pieces. And at the end, it's going to ask me what I want to do about evaluating OPAM-env. So as you do stuff with OPAM, you need to keep your environment variables up to date. This is something that I handle myself, so I do 5. But if you are a hardcore Camel developer, you might want to do something different. Anyway, we're going to do it that way. Now, we start by running make build deps, and this goes off and makes all the dependencies and packages required for the Octez software. And this takes about, well, it can take 10 minutes, maybe longer, depends on the machine. So what I did earlier is I set one up. So unfortunately, I got logged out, so you can't see, I can't prove it to you, but I ran make build deps on this machine, and I have just finished make build deps on there. So that will just run through, and that will work, and that will finish in about 10 minutes. Now the next thing we do is we do the eval OPAM-env that we have to do to get the environment variables. Let's see, has that done anything here? Yeah, so this variable has been set for one, maybe others. And now we just type make. And that is making the Octez binaries. It's making the client, which is the wallet software, the baker, the node, the DAO node, and all of those good things. Now, I could sit here and wait for that to happen. But fortunately for you guys, I made one earlier. Where's it gone?
Yeah. Well, especially because you launched the whole make that builds everything that is distributed with Octez.
Exactly. So but why have second measures? You know, Yeah. So this one in front of me has actually finished, and you can tell it's finished because all of the binaries here are made. Okay, so that's it. That's all you need to do to build it from source. But what I do is when I run a machine and I use the development versions, I do a few extra bits and pieces. So I'm going to tell you what they are. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but it's the way I do it. So I make a separate little directory to hold the binaries in. And that means that I can have several versions of them on the machine at the same time. And then I copy in everything Octez into that directory. Okay, they are quite big by the looks of it. Wow. You see there, make build is Deps is still running. It's making the camel compiler, and the make is still going as well. Wow, that copy is taking a long time. But they're all there. Why's that taking so long? What did I do wrong there? No, they're just big, I think. There we are, done. Right, yeah. So now we're going to use tmux. So tmux is a terminal multiplexer. And the key to using tmux is remembering Control B, because if you remember Control B, you can do Control B N, Control B and C, and get a new screen. So I've now got there 3 shells, just to show the difference. I can switch around them. There we are. And I can then detach with Control BD, and then when I want to go back to it, I can go back and attach like that. So definitely not recommended for production, but I can now run a node in one of these, a down node in another, and a baker in another. And that might be a way that you want to run on your dev system. So let's do that. I'm going to configure the node again, exactly the same way as I configured the node before. And now I've got to use the path name with tbin in it. So let's do that, because that's where the binary is. So that's configured it. And now I'm going to run it just on the command line. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to get a snapshot first. I'm forgetting myself. So let's get a snapshot, otherwise we will have to wait for it to sync. That was quick. Import the snapshot like we did last time. And then I can just run the node like this on the command line. Okay, and there it is. Now, whilst that's doing that, I can then go to another terminal and configure the down node. And run it. It's trying to connect to the other node. Oh, we don't have the Zcash params anymore.
Yeah.
That didn't happen during rehearsal. Let me get those then. So let's get this script. Is that going to work? Yes, it is. Okay, so these are some parameters that we use. Let's see if it runs now. Yes. Okay, so same again. That node is now syncing, and it's 3 hours odd behind. The down node will eventually connect, and we could go and do the whole thing again to set up a baker. In fact, let's do it for completeness. Let's create a key. We'll just create the baker key this time. We do need our node to be synced though. We need our node to be synced to declare it as a baker, so we better wait for that. But we can just run the baker on the command line, and that is a development and test baker. Now, have I missed anything out, Herman, other than the Zcash params, which it didn't find for some reason?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That kind of like I didn't check if it's not perhaps it should have been built in the by build apps in the standard place. So I don't know if it's because you move your working directory or something, but it
should be. They are there somewhere, but they just haven't been installed.
Yeah, I was rechecking the docs, exactly that link, because you have the script otherwise, which is what you did manually, but it should have.
We need some funds again, so let's go off to the faucet. And so we should have the
Did you do only build apps, or you did dev apps?
I did build apps, which is what the instructions say.
Yeah, but
I think to be fair, on most of my machines, I probably have the Zcash params everywhere they need to be. Right, again, we've got funds from the faucet again. We're just waiting for that. Yeah, we're just a little bit behind, so we can't see that yet because our node is 8 minutes behind and the operation is in the blocks at the top. There we are. So we have the funds, and then again we can register as a delegate and stake.
You know, it's funny because I have like some live comments on Discord from some peculiar members of the community. They're asking why they're asking why you're dressed like a grungy mechanic. I guess they're referring to our flyer, not yours.
They are, because it's an installation workshop, isn't it? That's we hand these things over to our arts department. It's what they do. All right, so we staked. Now to run a baker on there with the local node, we use all this. And so we say, I want to run a baker with a local node. I tell it where the node directory is. It happens to be there. We discuss the liquidity baking voting there. You have to give that, and we're going to give it the DAO node localhost. So if I run that, that will start a baker, and away we go. So that is a development baker, ready and running. And there's not a lot more to it than that. Obviously, if you upgrade the software, you can just Control-C these and restart them again. But that is all you need to do. Running like this in a production environment is not the way to do it, because it's running in the terminal. If you're running in a production environment, you want to be able to look at your logs and do other things and run as services. So it's better to do it the first way. But if you are looking at developing and submitting patches, or building from sources, you could do this for a test setup. Okay, so we've hit the hour, and I'm going to kill these two other machines that are probably not useful for us anymore. Dev1 and Dev2, they're going to get stopped. And I'm going to stop the example instance we did as well.
I'm going to stop the packages one. It might be about to get rights.
Yeah, so the packages one has got 9 baking rights at 9 o'clock.
Too late.
So we can see it bake in a minute.
Oh, 9 o'clock your time. Sorry, I forgot that we are on different time zones.
We're on different time zones today. Yeah, where did I put the packages? Did I? That's Dev1. I must have closed the packages window. Never mind, it's working. Okay. So what have we done so far? We've installed using packages. We've installed using source. All good stuff. Now, you might not want to do all that. You might just want to run a wallet on your machine. And just so happens that I have a wallet on my machine, Temple wallet. Now, to use a wallet, you need to use a node. And nothing particularly contentious about that, but you might want to run your own node and know that at least it's yours and you know how it's been set up. There's a way to do it on the Mac here. It also works on Linux. I haven't had much success on Windows because of the way Docker volumes work on Windows. But what I'm about to show you will get you up and running with a node using Docker. So I use Docker Desktop because it makes life very easy. I don't know, have we got a link for that? I think we might have.
Yes. Docker Desktop. Here it is.
Right. So I've installed it. It doesn't take much skill to install it. You just do it. You just drag it into your applications directory, and away you go. But there is something I need to do here. I do need to make sure it's got at least 16 gig of RAM available. That's what you need for a node. So if you've got a low-powered machine, you might not be able to do this. But this machine here has 32 gig of RAM. So I'm going to allow it to use 16 gig for Docker. Okay, and then I need a shell. And basically what I'm going to do, Docker uses containers, and there are pre-built images of Tezos that you can download very conveniently. So the first thing I can do is get the latest Tezos. And to do that, I just pull it down. Now, as it happens, I've already got that on this machine. It's almost as if I prepared, isn't it? So what we need a space to put our node information. I'm going to use a local directory. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run Docker. I'm going to run the Tezos Docker. Now this looks like a whole load of stuff because it is. But what it's going to do is it's going to run the Tezos Docker image. It's going to run the node in the configuration mode. It's going to init the network. It's going to add a lot of things to make the RPC work, and it's going to do it in such a way that my machine can talk to the Docker and get to the RPC port. Okay, so run that. And now I found in this node directory I just created, I've got a config file. Now what I've done is I've mapped that directory to where the Tezos software expects to find it in the Docker. Now if you know Docker well, this will be very easy for you. If you don't, there's a bit of a learning curve here. Same sort of thing. I'm going to go and make sure I haven't got one already. I'm going to go and get a snapshot. And now I'm going to import the snapshot, but this time I'm going to use Docker to do it. So I'm going to run the Docker again. I'll tell you what, let's do that again because that's a load of nonsense. I missed off the D. So what I'm doing here is I am mapping my node directory to where Tezos expects to find it. I'm running the snapshot importer, and I am mapping the snapshot file somewhere. Here we are. I'm mapping the file rolling to /snapshot. So the Docker image will be able to find that at /snapshot. This is all Docker stuff, and I'm deliberately going fast. We will post all this under the video, but that's importing the snapshot, and now we're ready to run. So I can get rid of the snapshot, and I can run a node. So Docker run again. And there we are. So Docker PS will tell you what's running. The Docker's there, and I can interrogate the logs. And away it goes. So it's running on this machine, and the node is there. Now I'm going to wait for that a little while to sync, but Temple, this is a very blank Temple wallet. I haven't got anything of interest on here. But Temple allows you to use a different node to its built-in ones. So let's go and find out. I think that's in networks. Now you can for mainnet, you can add a node here. But we're on a test network, so we have to do it a bit differently. So we come over to test nets and we add one of those. Let's call it Tallinnnet local, and we give it the address. So as I said earlier, 127.0.0.1 is the local machine, and 8732 is the port. It's already gone and read it. You can see it's the chain there. We click save, and now that network is now available for us to use in the wallet. So on mainnet, if you had a bit more time and you got a mainnet snapshot, you could run a Docker with the node locally, and then you could use your wallet to connect to that node. Okay, so that was setting up a node 3 ways, setting up a Baker 2 ways. Herman, did you have a Docker Compose or something? I think you were looking at doing something like that.
Yes, maybe we can. Let me.
Or should we see if we've got baking rights? Yes,
yeah. Oh, you baked. It's green.
No, I haven't got baking rights. I've got.
Oh, only consensus. Yeah, because it's only 6,000.
Yeah, so
it's only a testation. Yeah,
only attestations, but there's 20 minutes to go, and that will attest. So all being well. So that was a success. So I'm going to delete all these. Well, actually, I'll leave them running. Maybe you want to come back to them. Let's get rid of that, and I'll stop sharing. And then maybe if you want to share, you can.
Okay. Then let's show my terminal there. Let me increase the fonts, maybe a bit. That's too. Maybe I need to. I need to do this. You tell. Is that better? Chris, you're mute.
I would go a couple of lines down because you're under the live banner. But yeah, you're
okay. I will
just hit enter a few times.
Yeah. There. Okay. Yeah. So like, you build it on the Docker thing. I guess that's what you basically what you Chris just gave before is what. Like say like the vanilla way of running Docker. Sometimes we use it, but there's a lot of other approaches on using Docker that some people, especially people that manage operations like on multiple networks or on multiple machines, they prefer to use, in particular one that is called Docker Compose. So I guess it basically allows you to do those steps that you have done in a little bit more like a centralized way. So let me connect to one machine that is actually using this. Let's to remember its name. Yes, Dagon. And I'm not going to use Tmux in this machine. I'm going to use something else. It's called Biobu, which is like a gentler version of Tmux, let's say. So let me clean this up. So here I have the node already running. So I have this is my Tallinnnet Baker. You can find if you look for Germán on TSKT. It's running the DAL node already. It's running the node, and it's running an accuser, and it's also it's actually using one of these things that we discussed before, because it's testing one of these more cloud-oriented way of running with BLS consensus keys. So you may see there that I just said AWS. So basically, this Baker is running on the cloud, on GCP actually, and then the keys are also stored in a secure environment, in what is called a Nitro enclave. So basically, it's like a vault, and then I'm using Signatory to basically provide the keys remotely. And basically, there's a little bit of a config to make sure that only this machine can get the keys from the other environment. But that's not the subject today. The subject today was clearly showing around this Docker Compose. So actually, you might see actually I have here have similar specs to what Chris was showing before. So it's 16 gigs of memory. I'm using actually 3. It's nice, it's lean on the test network. Yeah. So the point is about Docker Compose is it allows you to basically combine all the steps that you did in a single file. So the way that we are not going to do a tutorial on Docker Compose. I'm probably not an expert, perhaps either. But the idea is that you can set up all the different steps into a single file, in particular. So here, and the way that it's called Compose because it's as if you will have independent containers running, one of each running different services. And once you set up the Compose file, you can take them up and down individually. You can start and stop the services, similar to like we did with systemctl. And in another, and basically, but it also allows you to tweak configuration quite easily. So I don't know, for instance, and the way you got doing this here is so basically it works similarly to what you did before. So basically I'm specifying the images I'm using. You could combine different software, so you can be pulling containers, composing containers that are coming from different streams. For instance, at some point I mentioned Signatory. You could have your signer running here and pulling the containers from that sources. So here I have the first one is one for the node. Notice that here is what it's called entry point. It's basically running the run command, because I had done the configuration steps a little bit like in a different way. So, but the basic bare bones is to say, okay, I have the entry point is the command you're going to run. Here, another thing that I've done that's a little bit different, but we mentioned before, is that I'm using a different place for the data directory. And this is not inside the container. This is actually another disk in this machine. And this is specified a bit below. And I'm specifying the addresses. When you're using Docker across containers, there's a little bit of some tricks that you need to do. That's why I'm using this different notation for the RPC address. So this is equivalent to what Chris used before with the home or.
Well, you're using the IPv6 notation, aren't you? That's
but also because in sometimes it depends on how Docker does some stuff to map addresses slightly different, and I will show it, for instance, here. So this volumes, for instance, incantation here is actually telling that the disk, similar to what Chris did with the snapshots, like what you did is basically saying bind this mount point where I'm having the disk, because I'm being a bit kind of like practical, maybe to not naughty, but basically give say, okay, you can read and write on that whole disk. And I'm doing that for all the containers because I have in a disk where I have the the DAL data dir, the node data dir, and the client folder. On mainnet, for instance, some people might want to have a separate disks for your DAL node and your node. So it's like an extra safety in case something happens with your disk and you want to preserve the data. But basically, more or less, this is how it looks. I'm passing, for instance, the attester profile here on the command line for the DAL. And in particular, one of the things that you do different allows you this is like this is a here, instead of actually using the address, when I run the DAL node, I'm using this specific to Docker, and in particular to Docker Compose, that I'm saying the IP of the node container here, because it's ideally this emulates as if there were different machines on this on a network talking to each other, right? Then something similar. We didn't run the accuser manually here, but basically you do similar. You point, basically, like we said before, you point to the node because all the different pieces of software run with by RPC. And finally here we have your baker, and the endpoint and running locally. And here I have I have several. I have 4 keys, 2 consensus keys and 2 companion keys, because at some point I switched the keys and basically wanted to keep basically I migrated keys, so I need both keys in, right? So again, DAL node address and a couple of extra flags. For instance, keep alive when you pass it to the baker means that the baker process won't stop if the node is it doesn't detect that the node is running. So, and then some basically a little bit of customizations you can do with Docker, similar to systemctl, in terms of saying how should the different containers restart. And this is basically saying that I'm basically it's going to keep running and restarting until I stop them manually, right? So this is basically maybe a very bad crash course on Docker Compose, but ideally a Compose file looks like this. It summarizes the different commands that we are doing manually. And now I will sort of show how it works. So the first thing I will do is so here we have my bakery was still running. So here I'm going to use first of all, I will take this down. This is basically, you can see that basically like everything everything was shut down. So ideally, when you up something, is the command to say that we have made changes in our compose file. You need to use the up command to basically reload. Here I'm going to do this. Let's say, and one of the things that Docker Compose allows you to do is that let's say that I want to just start the node, and I will, if you have seen like this Docker once it detects, and will allow you to tell you which are the different components that we were calling node and baker and stuff like that. So basically, if I say this, okay, yes, I have some I have some layovers there. Yeah. So, and now basically I'm running what is called the detach mode. So basically I got separate logs, and now I see only my node is running. I lost a little bit of synchronization here, but here is my changes bootstrapped. And then, for instance, let's say let's start everything else. I would just say a V, and now you'll see, boom, because I'm watching all the logs interleaved there, that everything has restarted. My DAL node is complaining that it was not running for some time, and some things will be, eventually they are back to order. I can pause the logs maybe here, and you will see that everything is working correctly. Probably I didn't have the shards there, but yeah. So my DAL was off for some time, so that's why there's an empty DAL attestation, but kind of now everything is back online. So, like, going back to this, basically the compose is one of the ways that you have in Docker when you actually want to, like, say, build an orchestration into different ways of building software. And then, of course, this was like a little bit ad hoc, well, not ad hoc, but basic, perhaps, environment. So we are working on a couple of small projects to basically do a little bit of things a little bit more advanced, because you can, for instance, something that we haven't done here is you could have a notion what is called like virtual services. So it's basically like you define something that it's like a container, but it's just doing some tests. And for instance, you could have something I didn't do here because this machine is always running, but a container that I use to basically import the snapshot, and then once I'm bootstrapped, I can run the actual node without having to bootstrap. And you can also play a little bit with let's say sequentializing your operations as well, for instance, if you want to.
Can I point something out there? So you've got in your DAL node config there, you've explicitly given your Baker address, right? And that's best practice. I didn't do that when I ran my config in it for the DAL node. It will work, but it's best practice to put in the Baker address, isn't it? Is that right? Or the master,
yeah. I mean,
key.
Like you need to pass the Viking key. Ideally, you need to. I mean, technically, if you want to do this neatly, you would like to have run your Tallinnnet command before, especially if your configuration is a bit more advanced, and if you have it in your init in DAL config, then you need to pass it. In particular, here on this. On this machine, on this Tallinnnet Baker, I did not. So basically, I'm running here. But one case in which you want to do this is, if, for instance, if you are using more advanced ports. In particular, here I'm using the default ports. You can see this here. There's like a couple of things I glossed over that had to do with how when you compose containers, you want to basically we are also doing sometimes port mapping here in between the host ports and the container ports, and this is like a little bit of maybe, I mean, it's not necessarily here. It could have run because this is running on a standard port, but at some point I was running a different config. So yeah. But yeah, like say like Docker, like I said, like allows this, compose files allow you to basically more like you can also automate. It's like you can have your Docker compose file and edit it automatically and then redeploy, and it allows you to basically like a little bit more of control than individual commands, and sometimes intermediate between other solutions in which you are basically doing infrastructure as code, which are perhaps a bit more advanced than this. But anyway, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean that is infrastructure as code, isn't it? So that's a good. I mean, that's your template is very specific to you, obviously, but that is a good starting point. Do you reckon you're going to share that? template? Can we? Because I'm going to put my notes. I'm going to put my notes somewhere. Perhaps we should.
I can.
share.
Yeah, I can. I can put this in a gist because, like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's it doesn't have any secrets.
No.
I can have. Yeah, I can put it in a gist later. And like I said, we have some examples of how to run Docker in the docs.
Yeah.
I'm doing a couple of things that are not non-standard, but let's say because I'm writing my own entry points and whatnot. But it's a good example, I guess.
Well, I mean, if you're in an environment like AWS or GCP, there's several things you could do. You could either turn something like this into a CloudFormation template and run ECS instances and install Dockers, or I mean, you could even. I mean, I do have a few instances out there where I install the machine, and then I will give it any keys, like that Octez ACS that we accepted blindly at the beginning of the packages. If you supply that in a template, you know it's correct. You can then have the instance download and install all the packages and configure itself. So there's quite a lot of automated stuff you can do with this.
Indeed. Like I said, in this kind of in this particular case, it's like a bit less convenient. And switch the machines. For instance, this is a different Docker environment, which is the one I'm using at the moment for Weeklynet. You know, so we mentioned this. But Weeklynet is like one of the dev test networks that is testing alpha. And I'm also using a slightly different Docker setup that is a little bit more ad hoc because I'm.
You're definitely in the matrix there, aren't you?
Yes, well, kind of like that. To be honest, I changed this. This is like my screen setup for a vertical screen where you have this is the node, this is the baker, this is the DAL, this is a little bit of a console, and I have a couple of aliases.
And as a dev, that's another way you could do it, because if you wanted all the logs separate on the screen, you could do it that way. So you don't have Tmax that I used just got one. You're using something. What is it you're using there? Remind me.
Bayobu, which is like Tmux for dummies. Let's say it's a simplified version of it, but you could do things like this in Tmux, in which you split your screen and you switch around, and then you have here I have some configs. But like I said, particular you can also do that with Docker Compose. Here I was. I'm on another machine. Sorry, this is my ShadowNet. Here I'm using packages like you showed before. This is a Docker Compose. Here I show I show here the full logs interleaved. But if I could have done the same and split my screen and say, let's say I want the node, and then have the baker in a separate way, right? Baker, and you have things like the only thing I still haven't figured out how to do with the Docker Compose is that you lose the coloring of the logs.
Yes.
Well, I know that you don't. Particular that you have your own opinions on colors, but so here you see
Well, I'm a VT 100 kind of guy. I think the problem with colors is you've got to cater for all the different backgrounds as well. It's like the navy is quite difficult to read. I think actually the first time I used Linux on a machine at home was probably 1997, and I turned off all the shell colorings then and went. So I think I had cyan shells, but I often have amber ones and I often have green ones, or I have light blue on blue, dark blue.
Between you and me, since we are just us here, I would say I'm young enough to say probably the first computer I used had green on black CRT, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I was blessed in the way that I used a home computer that had color, but when I went to work experience, I had to use an IBM AT, and that had, or maybe even an XT actually, and that had a green screen. It was very small screen.
Yeah,
Happy days. Those were the days.
Anyway,
Life was easier then and happier. I would like to just quickly go back to the Block Explorer, if I may.
Yes, you have the stage. Where are we?
Yeah, I don't know where we've gone. We've been hiding all this time. Oh my goodness, we're actually there.
Yes.
Let's see. So if we were hiding all the time, we can't have you there like that. Let's do that. So were we hiding the entire video podcast? Anyway, this is the baker that we set up first with packages. So that has actually attested. And it's attested twice, and it's got a few more to do before 10 o'clock. So that's all working. And then the one we set up as a dev server has got 2 attestations soon. So everything looks good to me. I don't think have you got anything else to add to go back to? I think we just go back to me and you, mate.
No, I think I think it's we cover a lot of the basics. I was kind of catching up with the trolling on Discord.
Oh, is it trolling on Discord? Interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, probably because they've had to look at our shells and screens for the last hour and a half and not us. Hooray! I've got a few more things that we should talk about. So let me put the screen back on stage, because we should really talk about TezDev, shouldn't we?
We should.
So
registration is open, right?
Yeah, it is. So yeah, there's the link. So, or you can Google TezDev 2026, and it's in Cannes again on Monday, March 30th. Looking forward to the program. I'm going to be there, so come and have a chat. Although I'll still be on Lent, so no drinking, unfortunately.
Kind of, I understand, like Germán, not me, but the country monks and Austrian monks. They used to. I'm not saying cheat Lent, but there's a specific Lent beer.
Yes.
That they used to consume.
That's right.
So you're more strict with your Lent than a 15th century.
No, I'm not. I have a very strange Lent, don't I? Okay. There's a book called A Diary of a Monk, and it's written by a home brewer. So, because I used to be a home brewer, there's no point in me brewing anymore because I don't drink beer. But he followed that diet. So he brewed the beer, and then he basically spent Lent having sort of 6 pints a day instead of eating. And by and large, he followed it. And he also had his bloods taken and everything like that. And he did do it for the entire Lent, and he lost a bit of weight. And it was quite interesting because he couldn't always drive. And then he would turn up to a barbecue, and of course he'd had a few jars. So he quite fancied the prawns on the barbecue. I think he did actually break it once or twice, but he did quite well on it. It's quite an interesting book because there is a religious angle to it as well. But yeah, so that is one way to do Lent. I mean, if you follow a very strict Lenten diet, you're not going to eat any meat or fish. And I do. Well, yeah, but I mean, there is a Lent diet that's very vegetarian, and you're allowed fish on certain days.
My family is particular because kind of for them Lent is sort of like happen only on Good Friday, and it's probably it's like the time of the year when you do fish in the barbecue instead of meat. So basically, like the Argentinian Lent is one day, so it's not the full 40, but
Yeah, well, yeah. So I'm doing something a bit special. So I'm doing 1 meal a day from now until Good Friday, and 6 days a week, no carbs, except Saturday. I can do what I want.
Test Dev is going to be a challenge.
Yes, and on the days I go to the gym 2 hours before I have a bowl of porridge. I think I said earlier, but that is it, and there's no drink. And actually, the first week I've lost a bit of weight. I do feel more awake, better generally. I don't get hungry. I'm in ketosis. I'm burning fat. So anyway, at TezDev, you can hear all about it because I tell everyone.
You can actually put Chris to the test.
You can tempt me with your French wines.
I won't be there though.
Oh, you won't be there. Okay.
I won't be there.
Well, you won't be tempting me with your French wines then.
I'm pretty sure I can find somebody to do that for.
No, travel is difficult with diet. I mean, when I come, I'm in Zug today, and I know various places where I can go, and I can just get my food, and they know me well enough, and I can say, can I have that steak, some eggs, and salad, and they do it. But some places you go, you just can't, can't expect no carbs, sir. What are you talking about? Anyway, we've done this to death then. So we will. Well, I think I don't think Herman will. We don't know when we're going to do it, but around about TezDev we'll be doing a steakhouse, and then I think we're going to follow up this episode with one on key management, which we're going to have to go figure out because it's very bespoke. But that's the thing you have to worry about if you are running on mainnet. So I think we'll leave it there.
I think we covered enough.
Yeah.
We got three bakers running. We cheated and showed a fourth one.
Yeah.
Well,
all good stuff. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks, Herman.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.